When we were in kindergarten, King Mei and I often ate ice cream. I quickly finished my dessert, but my gaze was involuntarily drawn to King Mei's hand holding her portion. I sneaked up on her while she wasn't looking, and suddenly he bit her ice cream. King Mei's face was all salty at that moment. She didn't expect such meanness at all. Of course, I don't eat it, I just wanted to joke. She immediately got angry with me. It seemed like she genuinely didn't like me. I playfully patted her cheeks a few times. Yes, I patted her face without even touching it with my lips. Okay, I admit it was all just pampering and whims. Is it even possible to eat such disgusting stuff? From then on, King Mei began to respond to those around her with just 2 words. No, no, no is her entire vocabulary for others. But she always listened to me. After graduating from high school, I had to go abroad to study. Since then, no one has been able to replace King Mei in my life. Even my older sister, who seems to have 3 billion fans, can't compare to her. Today was my first time back home. I had just left the airport with my luggage when I ran into my parents right at the entrance to King Mei's house. They glanced at me, said a few words, and literally left me standing there with my things. It seems I've long since faded into the background in their hearts. They've long regarded King Mei as my future wife. Exhausted from the journey, I reached King Mei's house and started pounding on the front door, shouting for them to open it, but there was silence. It was almost midnight. I didn't leave, realizing that she must be wandering around somewhere again. I found her number and called. After so many years, I don't know if she recognizes my voice. I dialed the number when the music on the phone stopped and immediately started getting angry. Gu Qinghen, what are you getting yourself into now? I'm back and standing at your door, now open it quickly. But instead of her, a strange, clouded girl's voice answered. Are you looking for Sister Qinghen? She's busy. Call back later, she said and hung up. I was taken aback. A fire flared inside me. The one who answered was clearly one of her entourage. Even some girl dares to talk to me like that. Meanwhile, Gu Qinghen sat there, glass in hand. A cute guy sat down next to her and whispered tenderly, Qinghen, are you drunk? Gu Qinghen shook her head, though she looked quite tipsy. She leaned back against the sofa, helpless. Qi Zhen was captivated by her beauty. He felt trapped. Finding a woman as perfect as Qinghen was practically impossible. Seeing her enticing red lips, he couldn't resist reaching out for a kiss. Qinghen only weakly embraced him in return. Her voice could melt anyone's heart, but not mine. At that time, I was just waiting for her answer. Gu Qinghen suddenly frowned. She opened her eyes abruptly, and a cold glimmer flashed across her gaze. The next second, she came to her senses and roughly pushed him away. Stay away from me. Gu Qinghen pressed her hand to her forehead, feeling a strange taste on her lips. Qi Zhen didn't let up. You're drunk, I'll help you get home. Gu Qinghen rummaged through her bag for her phone but couldn't find it. She was furious. Where's my phone? A guy nearby came up to her and handed her a phone. Sister Qinghen, here's your phone. Everyone around me hesitated, unsure whether to tell her about my strange call, and then the phone rang again. Gu Qinghen looked at the unfamiliar number and pressed the answer button. Hello, Gu Qinghen, I said. For a long time, she couldn't figure out who it was. She was in a lousy mood. No one except my family dares talk to me like that. Who are you anyway? Hearing her voice, I asked, are you really Gu Qinghen? She clearly thought I was crazy. You call and ask if it's me. You're boring, I'm hanging up. I couldn't let her just turn off. Wait, where are you? I'll find you. I'm too tired to play these games. Apparently, she'd gone out drinking again. Knowing Gu Qinghen, if she'd been in her right mind, she would have hung up right away without even listening to the rest. I don't know what it was, the voice or the intonation, but something about it struck Gu Qinghen as oddly familiar. Subconsciously, she told me the address. I'm at the Little Boy Bar, Baoxiang 303, she said. Okay, stay there, don't go anywhere, I'm on my way, I replied and hung up. Gu Qinghen glanced at her phone screen. The alcohol was clouding her judgment, but one question was spinning in her head. Who was that? The tone was far too self-assured. Who was allowed to command like that? In this world, she was used to everyone obeying her, but that voice brought back vague memories. The guest sitting next to her immediately moved closer to her. He used all his magnetism to interrupt her thoughts. Qinghen, you were talking to some guy. Is this your new beau? Gu Qinghen didn't want to talk to him, so she simply leaned back on the sofa. Her gait was unsteady due to intoxication, but she still quickly headed towards the exit. Mo Yuhui obsequiously ran up and handed her some tea. Qinghen, drink this, it will help. Gu Qinghen accepted the cup, but Qi Zhen intercepted her hand. Qinghen, let me court you. Gu Qinghen, feeling weak, allowed him to play this role. She was used to others fussing over her. Meanwhile, I checked my luggage into the left luggage office at the station and took a taxi to the designated bar. The place turned out to be quite noisy. I spent a while looking for the right booth, but when I found it, I resolutely threw the door open and shouted, "Gu Kinghen!" Everyone present in the box immediately stared at me. A faint smile flashed across Gu Kinghen's face. "You found Sister Kinghen," someone from the crowd muttered as she came to her senses a little. Qi Zhen stared at me with a look like his jaw was hanging open. "Don't tell me you're Kinghen's new boyfriend. Apparently Kinghen has already abandoned him." "I just like you, but honestly, other than your face, there's nothing special about you," I snapped at him. My words brought laughter from the girls in the box. They could clearly see that this new guy was much more impressive than the previous one. Qi Zhen was a shameless upstart who fancied himself a great suitor, although in reality he was just an empty shell. He didn't even realize that if he weren't Gu Kinghen's boyfriend, no one would even look in his direction. My face instantly darkened. I can't stand being called white-faced or handsome in a disparaging tone. I looked at Qi Zhen and snapped, "Shut up, I didn't come here for you. What are you even yelling about?" Qi Zhen ignored my question. "Who are you? How dare you talk to me like that?" Deep down, he was seething with indignation. Gu Kinghen only dated him for a week, and then she simply suggested that they break up for some completely ridiculous reason. And a couple of days later, rumors started to spread that she had a new boyfriend who was incredibly handsome. But I didn't care about this upstart. I only came for Gu Kinghen. I turned to the man next to me and asked, "Where is the women's restroom? Show me the way." He looked at me with undisguised shock. "Are you going to go into the women's restroom?" I gave him a disdainful look. "You yourself said that Gu Kinghen went there. I can't go after her to the men's room, can I?" Qi Zhen had completely lost it. This gigolo, as he called me, dared to despise me. His rage grew in proportion to my indifference. He didn't let up trying to get attention. "Why are you ignoring me? I'm talking to you. Hey, can you hear me?" I didn't deign to answer him. Qi Zhen jumped up and tried to push me roughly. Because of the semi-darkness, I didn't expect such a lunge, and I was swayed. But as I fell, I didn't lose my composure. I grabbed his pants with one hand and pulled them down. Qi Zhen's face instantly flushed with shame. I immediately pulled them back on, but it was too late. Those around managed to see everything, and laughter swept through the hall. Qi Zhen screamed, "You worthless thing, I will never forgive you for this." I didn't even look at him, my appearance showing that he was a pathetic sight. At that moment, the door to the box opened and a cold, distant girl walked in. What was going on here? I heard a familiar voice, turned around and met the gaze of the person who entered. It was Gu Kinghen. She looked around carefully at those present, and her voice sounded stern. "Zhang Yichen, why are you here?" I grinned and took a step forward. "You look good, and here I thought you'd already forgotten about me." I walked past him and playfully patted him on the shoulder. The guy next to me was so shocked he even stopped breathing. "Oh my god, this brazen guy dared to hit Gu Kinghen," his eyes said. Gu Kinghen was so beautiful that she didn't even react to my gesture. What happened? I just got back and was furious about the whole situation. Everyone was stunned. Gu Kinghen not only wasn't angry, but even seemed pleased with the situation. I asked, "Do you have any idea how many times I've tried to contact you?" Gu Kinghen glanced at me. "Zhang Yichen, you went abroad to move. Why are you covered in dust?" I just licked my lips in response. "It's not because of you," I snapped. Gu Kinghen just blinked. "What does this have to do with me? I just found out you're back, okay?" I turned my gaze to Qi Zhen, who was sitting next to me, and added, "Your boyfriend is absolutely adorable. I came for you, and he came to me. Gu Kinghen, you have excellent taste in people." Gu Kinghen and I have known each other since I worked at the hospital. How many years has it been? We've known each other forever. How could she not understand what I meant? Her gaze turned cold. She looked at Qi Zhen and asked, "Qi Zhen, who gave you the courage? You dare touch him?" Qi Zheng, who had just been seething with anger, now looked dejected. Gu Kinghen's gaze left no doubt he would have to pay. "Kinghen, listen, it's not what he said, it's his arrogant demeanor. Why does he call you by your full name? It's disrespectful. That's why I got angry." Qi Zheng defended himself, trying to figure out what he'd done wrong. Gu Kinghen gracefully jumped off the sofa. I grabbed her hand and said to Qi Zhen, "Why? Simply because I allowed him to do it. He can call me whatever he wants. It's none of your business." Qi Zheng was devastated by these words. He'd been in love with Gu Kinghen since middle school and had followed her for years, but he'd never seen her treat any man like that. I was the exception. Qi Zheng tried to justify himself. "Kinghen, I really didn't know. I didn't understand why he was so close to you. I'm sorry." Gu Kinghen was, as always, unbearable. She was so irritated that it was evident on her face. It infuriated me too, but I knew that another person in this situation would have acted differently, and Gu Qinghen only knew how to humiliate. The tone of the conversation still didn't suit me. Gu Qinghen, you can handle this yourself. I knew that even if I kept quiet, she would still put him in his place. She looked at Qi Zhen with a cold gaze. Tell me, what should I do with you? Qi Zheng looked at her with such despair, as if he was preparing for the worst. He raised his hand and slapped himself on the cheek. I'm sorry, it's my fault. I shouldn't have behaved like that without asking permission. Then he began to sob, stuttering with tears. He seemed to be apologizing very sincerely. Hearing that slap, I decided I'd had enough. Okay, that's it, no need to hit yourself anymore. Then she turned to me. Come on, it's time for us to go. Gu Qinghen said to the others, if you want to play, play. If you don't leave, I'm leaving. By the way, where's my phone? I quickly handed her the phone. Sister Qinghen, here is your phone. I thought about how difficult it had been to get through to her. Gu Qinghen, I called you earlier, but you didn't recognize my voice. I'm here, I'm out of money, and I wanted to ask for help. You didn't answer my calls. If you don't need it, then why are you wearing it? I had to look for you myself. But Gu Qinghen is a fickle person. I didn't hear you, that's normal. What's wrong with you? I'm back suddenly, it's so late. Can it be something important? She smiled at me with a slight ambiguity, as if she was glad to see me. Yichen, did you suddenly realize you like me? You were in such a hurry, you even had a fight with Qi Zhen. Did you want to tell me something important? She smiled back. I pinched her waist, the skin was soft, pleasant to the touch. Gu Qinghen gritted her teeth. You're a bad guy, you've completely forgotten how to joke over the years. I was also on edge, it had been a lousy evening. Whenever I'm in a bad mood, she starts teasing me. We left the bar and Gu Qinghen continued asking questions. Why were you looking for me? So you could open the door. I don't have the keys to your house, and the fact that you didn't open it is your problem. She answered no. Mom and the others are home. Someone would have answered if you'd rung the bell. We grew up together. Gu Qinghen's house is my second home. Gu Qinghen suddenly realized that something was wrong. You look gorgeous. What house are you talking about? Not the apartment I live in now, right? I nodded. Yes, why else would I look for you, silly? I looked at her like she was an idiot. Apparently, I needed to find her, not just show up at her family home. Gu Qinghen looked dejected. She didn't understand why I was in her apartment at such a late hour. You could have just gone to Mom's if you wanted to spend the night. Why are you looking for me? Although it seemed she was already beginning to suspect something. There were conditions in the contract, but she didn't want to admit that my hunch was correct. She preferred to think that her intuition was deceiving her. Hey, it seems you still don't understand that your mother deceived you. Don't worry, I'm a victim too. I understand how you feel. Gu Qinghen was completely dejected. What's wrong with you? What's going on? She took me to her luxury apartment and opened the door with her fingerprint. I checked the security system at the entrance. Great, add my fingerprint so I can come and go freely, I said. Gu Qinghen clearly didn't expect such impudence. She clutched her chest and stared at me. Why? So that I can come and go freely at any time. I also demonstratively crossed my arms over my chest. I'm living here from today. Will you be my personal key? Gu Qinghen frowned. Who gave you permission to live here? This is private property, and I didn't give you permission to invade my personal space. Don't be so greedy, and don't pretend. Wasn't it your mother who gave me the go-ahead to move in? Gu Qinghen finally began to suspect something. You said on the way that my mother was up to something. What does that mean? Are all of these things connected? I nodded. Exactly, we're getting engaged soon. That's why they let us live together. We need to get used to each other. Gu Qinghen froze, unable to believe her ears. What did you say? I'm engaged. What nonsense. Basically, that's how it is. Ask your parents for the details. I'm too lazy to explain. I'm damn tired. I'm going to take a shower and go to bed. Bye-bye. I waved my hand at her and dragged the luggage into the room. Hey, speak up, she shouted, but I slammed the door right in her face, almost hitting her in the face. She opened the door and shouted, Zhang Yichen, come out immediately. Having already changed, I appeared at the door. I'm terribly sleepy. We'll discuss this tomorrow, and went into the bathroom. Gu Qinghen looked at me, her eyes filled with worry, but I didn't care. I slept through the night and only woke up to the noise outside. I crawled out from under the covers and walked into the living room. Gu Qinghen was there. I'm hungry, make breakfast, I said. Gu Qinghen poured herself some water in the kitchen. There will be no breakfast, she replied calmly. This isn't a restaurant. If you want to eat, go get your own food. I'm so hungry I can't stand it. I haven't had breakfast. What should I do? I'll die of hunger. Gu Qinghan watched my childish whims with irony. There's milk and drinks in the fridge and cookies and bread in the cupboard. You can make yourself whatever you want. Eat whatever you find, and I called home and asked my mom to pick you up, she added. I almost fell off the couch from this statement and ran to the refrigerator. No one is taking me anywhere. Didn't I make it clear yesterday? From today on, I will live here. It doesn't bother me at all. I feel right at home. I can drink milk whenever I want. Gu Qinghan snapped, I won't agree to the engagement. I knew you were against it from the start. You don't agree? Then go and tell your parents and grandfather you can't do this. Is he already posing? What about grandma? Your mom said you'd come back this weekend and explain everything. As I thought this was grandfather's order which Gu Qinghan must obey. Annoying old men. Okay, I don't need to be here this weekend. I'll come back with you myself this evening to clear things up. Decide for yourself, I don't care. I poured the rest of the milk into the bucket. I washed my hands and said to her, are you going to school? Wait for me. I quickly brushed my teeth and washed my face. Gu Qinghan looked at me with confusion. You have to go to school. Yes, because from today I'm transferring to your school. I smiled at her, almost hitting my head on the door frame. Gu Qinghan had a crazed expression. If this guy showed up at her school, her reputation would be ruined. But I didn't care. I went to the bathroom, singing songs at the top of my lungs. After finishing my preparations, I went out and we drove to Harem Middle School. The journey took about 10 minutes. The school was prestigious, with a huge grounds and impressive gates. I shouted from the car a couple 100 meters away, stop, brake, I'll get out here. Gu Qinghan ordered the driver to stop. We haven't reached school yet, she asked. Why get off here? I had already jumped out of the car with my bag. I won't go with you. I don't want to attract unnecessary attention. Go first. Bye-bye, I'll go buy breakfast. Gu Qinghan watched me leave through the rear window. So many guys would dream of riding with her, but this man was a complete headache. I looked around and saw a pastry shop. I went in, picked out my favorite matcha cake and a glass of soy milk. Give me that piece, I said, pointing to the last matcha cake. Put it in the box, I'll take it with me. But the waitress looked at me apologetically. I'm so sorry, but this piece has just been purchased. Please choose something else. I was upset. Who bought it? I noticed it first. The waitress nodded toward the girl at the checkout. She had already paid for her purchase. I'm truly sorry. Would you like to try the chocolate or the strawberry? No, I snapped and turned away. I walked up to the girl and gently patted her on the shoulder. Hello, could you give me the matchday cake? I have a complicated personality and don't want to change my preferences. The girl turned around. She turned out to be incredibly beautiful with a sweet, simple appearance. My type. Hello, how can I help you? She asked. Sumizu looked at me and said, I'm sorry, but no. Her voice sounded so melodic that my heartbeat instantly quickened. I have a pleasant voice myself, but this girl, she made such an impression on me that I could not hide my excitement. This is the last cake from the matches. Maybe you could give it to me. I gave her my most charming smile. If Gu Qinghan saw me trying to seduce someone with my charm, she would definitely be furious, but I wasn't thinking about that right now. However, Su Muzu shook her head. Sorry, this is for someone else. I can't give it away. For a moment, I was angry. She must have bought it for her boyfriend. What a faithful and attentive girl, rare to find these days. Okay, I won't insist. I'll buy something else. I gave in. Just when I thought that all the pretty girls already had boyfriends, my mood got worse again. Su Muzu's gaze lingered on me, seeming to sense a twinge of awkwardness. By the way, I heard they make excellent chestnut pie nearby. Maybe you'd like to try it? Her words sounded so soft and caring that I couldn't help but smile in response. Okay, thank you, I'll try. I ordered a chestnut pie, took the bag, and quickly caught up with her. Since I've transferred to this school, it would be nice to make friends with some of the locals. Hello again, I beamed again. Are you all studying in Heilan? I transferred to this school today, I'm new. Su Muzu looked at me and with such a benevolent gaze, it was hard to refuse. She nodded and continued on her way to school. I followed, keeping up the conversation. You must be a senior, a third year. A strange regret flashed in her eyes. I laughed. Actually, I should be in second grade. Third is definitely too early for me. Su Muzu raised an eyebrow ironically. You can't even determine the level of your own class. I felt a little awkward. I actually attended the National Arts High School, but I decided to go to the second grade to be closer to Gu Qinghan. I knew perfectly well that she was studying in the second year, and I did everything to be in the same stream with her. Combining my studies in China with my experience was not as difficult as it might seem. Looking at my confidence, Sumyu couldn't help but smile slightly. We approached the school gates, chatting like old friends, but an unpleasant surprise awaited us right at the entrance. The security guard blocked my way. "Stop, classes are starting, no unauthorized entry." I tried to explain that I was a new student who transferred today, but the security guard was adamant. The more stubborn he became, the more angry it made me. I was already thinking about whether I should move away from Gu Qinghan to avoid getting into such troubles, when I suddenly heard Sumyu's voice. "He transferred today, they're just still processing the paperwork. I'll take him to the office where they'll confirm everything." The guard recognized her and nodded. "Ah, Sumyu, all right, I'll let him through for your sake." Sumyu thanked him politely. I was dissatisfied. I thanked her for her help, but the guard's behavior was completely humiliating. He looked at me like I was a thief. "I look quite decent. How could anyone mistake me for a violator?" "Thank you, I'll contact you later," I said to Sumyu and immediately dialed Gu Qinghan's number. Her sleepy, lazy voice rang out. "What happened?" I couldn't contain my irritation. "The security guard won't let me in. He doesn't believe I study here." In response, all I heard was Gu Qinghan's loud laughter. Her reaction made me even more furious. I almost screamed her name. Gu Qinghan muttered, "I see you're upset. Wait, I'll settle this." A voice came from a guy next to her on the other end of the line. A pang of curiosity pricked me. Who was that next to her? This guy sounded way too self-confident. "Who are you with?" I asked with a hint of jealousy. Gu Qinghan simply hung up without answering. "Hey, how dare she hang up?" "Gu Qinghan, you are unbearable," I exclaimed, looking at the phone. Sumyu asked worriedly, "What happened? Are you okay?" "Everything is fine, I just had a misunderstanding with a friend," I replied, although inside I was seething. A minute later, the security guard received a call. Seeing the number on the screen, his expression changed dramatically and he stood at attention. His attitude changed 180 degrees. "Sorry, it was a misunderstanding. The director is already waiting for you. Please come in." I chuckled contentedly and, putting my hands behind my head, confidently entered the school grounds. Sumyu still didn't let up. "Who are you?" When the director came out to meet us, I couldn't help but burst out laughing. I shook my finger at her. "It's a secret. When we get to know each other better, I'll definitely tell you." Sumyu smiled softly. "Are you trying to be charming? I don't make friends just like that." "I understand," I replied. "You're a student after all, and students are very picky about their surroundings." I smiled happily, feeling that the burden of the difficult interaction with Gu Qinghan was left behind. "How did you guess that I was a student?" She looked at me with curiosity. I laughed, my wits flashing, "Because I'm perceptive. By the way, the security guard recognized you. Are you a local celebrity here?" She answered evasively, not wanting to boast about her status. I persisted, "Don't you want to confess? Because you're a local legend, or just the best in school? I think it's both." Sumyu replied with irony, "Why would I be the object of ridicule?" I was surprised. "You're not joking? Then wait a minute. What about Gu Qinghan?" At the mention of this name, Sumyu's expression changed. She seemed fascinated. "Do you know him?" Her temperament was so strong that I asked her directly. "He's popular, right? I heard he has a lot of fans. You're a prominent figure too, even though we're different ages, but you should know." "I know, but I don't know him personally." Sumyu's voice turned cold. She looked at me with insight. "Father said you like him too." I got angry. "What nonsense, I'm not interested in him at all." Sumyu looked at me differently, no longer as just another clingy guy, but with some kind of cold but serious interest. I smiled at her. "I don't like people like him. If I had to choose, I'd say you're much better. He's not just rich and handsome, he's impossible to deal with. Anyone who falls in love with him is not to be envied," I added. It was the first time Sumyu had heard anyone speak to her so directly. Some passers-by looked at us strangely, as if I were an alien. Seeing their reaction, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Jiang Yichin, Sumyu." She smiled back. "Nice to meet you." "Are you going to class now?" I asked. "I'm new and I don't know my way around very well yet. Will I be able to find you?" My idea was simple. I wanted to make friends with a smart and beautiful student. This is my main hobby. Sumyu nodded. "Okay, I'm in 3rd grade." The campus was empty. Everyone had already gone to their classrooms. "Then I won't keep you," I said. "I need to go to the principal's office and then we can talk some more." After saying goodbye, I hurried to the administration building. Sumyu watched me go and her cold gaze warmed slightly. I entered the director's office. The director, seeing me, broke into a friendly smile and offered me drinks and fruit. I jumped to my feet, sat down on the sofa, and began to help myself. At that moment, a female teacher entered with a serious face and bruises under her eyes. "Director, how can I help you?" she asked. The principal introduced me solemnly. "This is a new student, Jiang Yichen. He has excellent grades from a prestigious school, and I've enrolled him in first grade. Take him to class later. He'll be the center of attention at our school in the future, understand?" Teacher Nu obediently nodded and took me away. The director personally showed us out the door. We approached the classroom and I saw the sign. I was overwhelmed with questions. Shouldn't I be in high school? Teacher Wei explained that their program was faster than the overseas one, and I might not be able to keep up with the others. "Okay, I'll figure it all out myself. I won't overload myself," I replied. In the end, it was important to maintain a focus on studying, and age is just a number. Teacher Wei led me inside. "This is the new student, Jiang Yichen. Please welcome him." I stood in front of the class, smiling openly. "Hello, my name is Jiang Yichen. I look forward to hearing from you in the future." The students smiled, and many began to whisper. "This guy is so handsome, his skin is even lighter than ours," the girls whispered. Some of the guys were clearly unhappy, but the girls were delighted, inviting me to sit next to them. I glanced around the class, choosing a seat, next to the most beautiful girl, of course. Teacher Wei asked, "Jiang, which classmate would you like to sit with?" The girls nearby froze in anticipation. I thought about it and asked out loud, "Who is the most beautiful girl in our class?" Everyone was stunned by my question. They looked at each other and their faces took on a strange look. I was too lazy to guess what they were thinking. I looked around the classroom and noticed 2 empty seats outside the window. Was the prettiest girl really skipping class today? Naturally, I chose the seat next to the most beautiful girl. I walked over, sat down with a smile, and said to the teacher, "Teacher Wei, I'll sit here." Teacher Wei looked at me strangely. He tapped his pointer on the table, calling for silence. "Okay, everyone, please help the new student get settled in. Be friendly and welcoming. Let's continue with the lesson." But who was thinking about the lesson now? The girls were sneaking glances at me, and the boys were giving me disapproving sideways glances, trying to look cooler. The girl sitting in front of me turned around and smiled. "Jiang Yichen, don't you have your textbook yet? Do you want me to lend you one?" I gestured for her to put the damn book away. I glanced at her tattered textbook, not understanding a word, and chuckled. "No need, keep it. I'll just listen." "It's okay, let's watch it with my desk mate," she insisted. It was funny to watch them, but I tried not to attract unnecessary attention, although I had a hard time holding back my laughter. The lesson was extracurricular, and other subjects weren't even worth discussing here. The level of education in the country where I lived was completely different. It felt like elementary school to me, utterly boring. I was just waiting for it to start when the girl in front of me started talking again. "Yichen, don't you understand? Let's at least have a normal conversation." I understood everything, but I didn't want to listen to her chatter. It was unbearably sad. This girl apparently didn't know even the most basic foreign words, which surprised me. I thought the first lesson would be interesting. I asked her, "What class is this? The weakest? How are the groups divided here anyway?" "No, our first class is the best in school." I barely suppressed a grimace of disbelief. "That's actually true. Either the best students or the richest ones are here. The rest are regular classes. Things are worst in the first ones. They're full of preppy kids and gangs. Be careful in the future." I was surprised. This girl suddenly showed concern, and my attitude towards her immediately improved. "So you're all rich here. Looks like you're not doing so well in school." The girl was embarrassed but decided not to lose face. "I just don't know foreign languages well, but I'm good at sports." I couldn't help but laugh. "Are you seriously proud of just playing sports?" "Jiang Yichen, you're so poisonous. Your appearance is deceiving," she pouted. "It's called poison tongue. You haven't seen real poison yet. By the way, my name is Chu Menjiao. If anything happens, ask for help," she said, proudly puffing out her chest. She was quite nice. I was right to choose the prettiest girl in the class. She turned out to be an interesting conversationalist. I didn't notice how the teacher's face on the podium began to darken with anger because of our conversations. I don't know if he heard me discussing desk chatter. The girl sitting next to me nudged me with her elbow. "Jiang Yichen, the teacher is calling you." I raised my head and my eyes sparkling asked, "Teacher, did something happen?" The teacher's face changed color with rage. "Jiang Yichen, translate the second paragraph." I pretended to be scared, "But teacher, I don't have a textbook." I looked at my neighbor pretending to look for a book, but the teacher was clearly angry. He was not going to let me get away with this. Chu Menjiao pitifully handed me hers. Take it, say something, he won't do anything to you. I smiled confidently, picked up the book, and began reading. The English I spoke was perfectly accented, a stark contrast to the teacher's broken language. The entire class froze in shock. The teacher was also stunned, his face expressing complete defeat. Teacher, can I sit down? I asked with a smile. He only gave me a pale nod to sit down. Chu Menjiao looked at me adoringly. You're amazing. Where did you learn such English? Didn't I tell you? I came from abroad and studied at the best school in that country. The students eavesdropping on us began to whisper. After class, I felt bored and decided to find Gu Qinghan to see how happy she was in second grade. I didn't know exactly what her progress was, but seeing what she did all day, I doubted her academic achievements over the past 8 years. But the Gu family is incredibly wealthy, and I knew she was proud. She would never allow herself to be in a class below the elite. I soon found her classroom. I peered into the back door and saw Gu Qinghan. Damn. There was a guy sitting next to her. They were chatting happily about something. How could she if we were engaged? Jealousy is a strange feeling, but I was more angry, like a groom who was hurt to the quick. She's too stupid, first day of school, and instead of meeting me, she's seducing other guys. I was furious. Gritting my teeth in frustration, I walked back to the stairs and caught a student passing by. I smiled at her. Hello, can you help me? Tell Gu Qinghan that her husband is looking for her. Thank you. The girl with glasses nodded, blushed, and ran to carry out the order. I hid in the corner and began to observe. I saw that same girl enter the classroom and announce loudly, Gu Qinghan, your husband is looking for you. A deathly silence fell over the classroom. You could have heard a needle drop. I can imagine the stunned looks on everyone's faces. I stood behind the door, barely containing an ironic smile. A few seconds later, Gu Qinghan emerged from the classroom with a gloomy expression. Her clothes perfectly matched her mood. I approached her. I knew it was you, she muttered. Did you come here on purpose to blow this up? I pretended to clutch my heart. Gu Qinghan, you only care about chatting with your classmates and you don't care about me. Wait, when we get home tonight, I'll tell your mother everything. We'll see what you'll sing then. Gu Qinghan sighed heavily. Mr. Jiang, what are you trying to achieve? I pointed to my cheek. It's very simple. Kiss me on the cheek right now, or let me kiss you. Hurry. Gu Qinghan lowered her gaze. She didn't need to look around to know the surroundings were full of onlookers peeking out from the classrooms. When everyone heard that her husband was looking for her, the shock was universal. Everyone was incredibly curious about what was going on. If she shows me even a drop of attention at this moment, isn't that the best proof for those around her? No, that's too much. Your husband knows no shame, but I do. She tried to refuse, making up an excuse. I got angry. This guy herself clearly wasn't listening to my demands. Gu Qinghan, you've changed. You used to be different. I let you do whatever you want, but you constantly push me away. You don't care about me. You prefer the company of other guys. Fine, so many years of feelings, all down the drain. Even though she often said no, I knew that behind closed doors she still did as I asked. So when she acts like this in public, it really hits me like a stone in my heart. Okay, I won't force you now. Do whatever you want, I said, turning around abruptly. Gu Qinghan sighed heavily. She suddenly hugged me around the waist and pressed herself against my chest. Smelling her familiar scent, I involuntarily touched her hair. The feeling was as wonderful as it had been years ago. After a while, she pulled away. The hugs are over. Go to class. I'll find you by lunch, I said, cooling off my anger. No, I won't have lunch with you. I found a very beautiful girl today. I'll eat with her. Gu Qinghan looked up at me. Beautiful? You're looking at the most beautiful girl in the entire school. Go eat with whoever you want. I just laughed in response. I won't accompany you to lunch, but I'll spoil you at night. Go already. Gu Qinghan leaned against the wall and watched me leave, seeming to be deep in thought. The next lesson was language, but for me it turned into a hypnosis session, especially compared to Chu Menjiao, who was sitting in front of me. I sat through the lesson conscientiously, although by the end I felt completely exhausted. The sleep was so deep that I almost broke my neck, burying my face in the desk. Chu Menjiao turned around and laughed. You were sleeping so soundly that I almost caught the sleep bug myself. School's finally over. I'm hungry. Let's go eat. What's keeping you quiet for so long, rat? We're friends now, I said, looking at my watch. Noon. Of course I need to eat. Aren't you eating? Take me to the dining room quickly. Don't be rude to me. I'm getting too familiar. I knew that Chu Menjiao was from a rich family, so I had no qualms about asking her to treat me to dinner since I didn't have much money. Okay, let's go. She started packing, and then I suddenly remembered Su Muzu. Wait, I need to find someone else. You know the school better, right? Take me to class 3-1. I dragged her by the wrist out of the classroom, ignoring the ambiguous glances of those around me. I was afraid I'd be late and Su Muzu would leave. She looked puzzled. Who are you going to find in 3-1? I replied with a smile. His name is Su Muzu. Do you know him? Chu Menjiao was surprised. You're looking for him specifically. What's your relationship like? I laughed. A relationship between a guy and a girl. Do you believe it? Chu Menjiao's eyes widened. No way, that mysterious person is you. It turned out he really did have a boyfriend. I even felt a little sorry for him. Chu Menjiao looked at me sadly. You lied to me. I really thought you were his boyfriend. Tell me quickly, who is this mysterious guy Su Muzu from our school? Chu Menjiao shrugged. I don't know. They've been dating for years, they say. Nothing else is known. This mystery intrigued me. A beautiful girl like Su Muxu would surely be surrounded by crowds of admirers. Being able to hide your relationship under such a bright spotlight is impressive. What drives a man crazy? Probably a secret. Chu Menjiao asked, you don't even know that. Are you really friends? Are you planning on pursuing him? I'm not that immoral. I treat him like a friend. But why is he so popular at school? Chu Menjiao nodded. He's incredibly famous. Others spend their parents' money, but he earns it. And he's the best student in the country. The school depends on him, so the principal supports him in everything. I knew Su Muzu was a super brain, but I didn't expect her to be so untouchable. Meanwhile, we'd reached the 3rd grade. I walked up to the entrance and asked one of the students, is Su Muzu here? Please call him. The boy I bumped into looked at me with such a mixture of joy and sadness that I immediately realized that he, too, had come to confess his feelings. You're late, he said. Some guy just took him. Now where should I put my love letter? Come early tomorrow, I said and left without waiting for an answer. Tears welled up in my eyes. I wanted to say that I was Su Muzu's close friend, but the guy didn't give me a chance. It seems Chu Menjiao was right. Every day, lines of admirers form around him. It's hard to believe, but apparently this is the norm for him. He's so handsome, I repeated to myself, feeling strangely awkward about this admission. Chu Menjiao's expression changed. Yichin, you're not mistaken, are you? Su Muxu is an unattainable guy. He doesn't even look at the guys who hang around him every day. I shook my head. No, I think he's a very kind person. Why do you think he's so arrogant? You'd better give in. He's not that easy to get along with. You don't know him at all, Chu Menjiao continued to insist. It's strange because I've seen what he can be like, and I've never heard his name associated with anyone else. I laughed. Oh well, it doesn't matter. Let's go eat instead. A couple of minutes later, we entered the dining room and started looking for a free table. We came across a group of classmates who invited us to their place. These were the same guys who had been making fun of me and Chu Menjiao this morning. What a small world. My classmates started grinning suggestively and shouting, you two are so perfect for each other. The noise attracted everyone's attention. When Gu Qinghan entered, I heard the commotion and tried not to look in her direction, even though I knew she was nearby. Gu Qinghan glanced at us briefly. So this is the beauty you were talking about, someone nearby whispered. She had such a heavy gaze, it used to bother me, but now I looked at her like a stranger. How could this guy me compare to her cold beauty? Gu Qinghan didn't even glance up at the 2nd floor. She was used to being the center of attention, and my appearance didn't seem to bother her. Her classmates began asking about her past, discussing her status as a local star. Let's go up to the 2nd floor and eat there, I suggested. Gu Qinghan was considered the pride of our school, a true embodiment of nobility. I frowned. I can't stand this admiration. Is there really no one more beautiful than her? I think even those walking behind her look just as good. After my words, several guys looked at me with obvious hostility. Chu Menjiao grabbed my sleeve. Watch your mouth. These are her crazy fans. If you say she's bad, they'll start a fight. I remained silent. Although I didn't want to admit it, it was objectively difficult to find anyone more beautiful than her. Perhaps I had become accustomed to her face since childhood, so I stopped seeing anything special in it. Let's go to the 2nd floor, I said. The guys followed us, clearly dissatisfied with my words. The girl who remained at the table winked. Yichin, why don't you and Chu Menjiao start dating? Everyone burst into laughter. I sighed silently. These people are so boring. Do you really have to set up every guy and girl who's just sitting next to you? I patted Chu Menjiao on the shoulder. She's a great girl, I'll think about it, don't be so strict. After dinner, Chu Menjiao turned to me. Is what you said true? What are you talking about? I asked, looking at Gu Qinghan from the second floor. She looked at me with disbelief. I noticed a whole retinue of guys who followed Gu Qinghan around like faithful dogs. In front of her own husband, me, she didn't even say hello, and she dared to make such an indifferent face. I turned to Chu Menjiao, gave her a sweet smile, and taking a bite of the braised pork, commanded, "Open your mouth." Chu Menjiao froze, her eyes questioning, "Are you serious?" "Open up quickly," I urged her, impatiently watching to see if Gu Qinghan could see us. Chu Menjiao smiled sweetly and ate the piece I offered her. I wanted to feed her more, watching Gu Qinghan's reaction out of the corner of my eye. She was still looking in our direction, and then she simply turned around and left with her fans. "What else do you want, fish or beef?" Chu Menjiao asked. "Anything, just hurry up," I was irritated. Seeing Gu Qinghan leave, I lost all interest in eating and pushed my plate away. "Eat it yourself, I don't want any more," I snapped. Chu Menjiao looked at me with confusion. What happened? Everything was so cute just now. "Yichen, you don't like fish, let me have steak." I looked at her. "Didn't I tell you? My words are just a game to figure out who's who." Chu Menjiao's expression sank. "So you lied to me? I thought you really wanted to date me." Chu Menjiao suddenly pouted, showing a look of resentment on her face, and I felt a little awkward. It was already approaching noon. Menjiao and I walked out of the school gates. A driver came to pick her up and, seeing us, asked if I needed a ride home too. I politely declined, replying that I would get home myself and that she should go. I gently pushed her towards the car, helped her sit down, and closed the door so the driver could take her home. As soon as the car was out of sight, I quietly walked back to the school gates. I spotted Gu Qinghan squatting next to a luxury car, looking very upset, his lips pressed tightly together. I walked closer. With a smile on my face, I walked up to him and patted him on the shoulder. Gu Qinghan turned around, raised his head, and saw that I was standing right in front of him. I helped him up, chuckling, "Gu Qinghan, you're so childish, squatting here like a child. People will think God knows what." He stood up, dusting himself off, and asked if I was going to leave him. "You were hiding from me on purpose, weren't you? Admit it," he added. I jokingly pinched his nose, ordered him to go home, took him by the hand, and sat him in my car. After some time, we finally arrived home. The car stopped and the driver opened the door for us. A whole delegation of people were waiting for us at the entrance. Getting out of the car, I walked toward the house, still holding Gu Qinghan's hand. The doorman immediately opened the door for us. At that very moment, a loud bang was heard, confetti and money began to rain down from above, and those present shouted in unison, "Congratulations on your engagement." Gu Qinghan and I froze, stunned by what was happening. Mother Gu came up to us, took my arm, and said with a beaming smile, "Xiao Chen, you will become my son-in-law." Gu Qinghan looked around. The place was full of guests, all dressed to the nines. He frowned and looked at his mother. "Mom, what does this even mean?" She just smiled. "Today is your engagement. Since everything is ready, why wait? We decided to throw a surprise." She added, turning to me, "Chen, come see what an amazing cake I ordered for your engagement. You'll definitely like it." It was a huge dessert. It seemed to have at least 10 layers, incredibly beautiful and exquisite. Father Gu came over and patted me on the shoulder. "Do you understand that you are now responsible for Qinghan? I trust him to you. Don't let him down." Gu Qinghan looked confused. No one had asked his opinion, but under his grandfather's stern gaze, he didn't dare object in front of everyone. At the banquet, the Gu family officially announced our engagement, deciding to postpone the wedding itself for now in order to strengthen the relationship between us. I had just breathed a sigh of relief when Gu's mother added that the wedding would take place right after Qinghan turned 18. Gu Qinghan pulled me aside and asked quietly, "Are you so reluctant to marry me?" I laughed, grabbed his shoulders, and whispered in his ear, "Gu Qinghan, do you really think I don't want to be with you?" He was clearly embarrassed by my closeness, pushed me away, and grumbled, "The devil take you, you're always with these jokes." I replied, "Great, if so, we'll fight back together. Your father loves you, he won't force you to be with someone he doesn't like." Having said this, I frowned, wondering, is she really indifferent to me, or is this just my narcissism? I don't believe she has no feelings for me at all. Gu Qinghan seemed to read my thoughts. "Sorry, but this trick won't work. The engagement is a done deal, accept it." I looked into her eyes, and it seemed to me that she was hiding something. Gu Qinghan shrugged. "I've accepted it. What are you afraid of? It's still an eternity until I turn 18. Everything could change." I was too lazy to explain that I wasn't afraid at all. Marriage, what difference did it make? It was just a formality. I interrupted his rantings with a decisive gesture. Gu Qinghan tried to pull away, asking what I was doing. The next second, I pinned her against the wall. "Hey, Gu Qinghan, you clearly underestimate men. Want to test my mettle?" I laughed. He felt a little nervous, but immediately pulled himself together, becoming even more determined in response. I dodged, grabbed his hand, and muttered, "I didn't expect such agility." "Well, since you're so active, my dear, I won't stand on ceremony." We both blushed from the heat of passion, and all I could do was exclaim something incoherently. "I'm just kidding," I said. "My dear, you're wonderful, I'm just teasing." Gu Qinghan stubbornly snapped, "Stop it, this looks disgusting." I was about to continue when suddenly a strange premonition came over me. I turned around. Almost all the guests were looking straight at us, watching our game with envy. God, Gu Qinghan's face was burning, and only now did I realize we'd made a scene right at the banquet. It was terribly embarrassing, and I hurriedly pulled him out of the hall. Our banquet ended with the cheerful laughter of our elders. On the way home, Gu Qinghan grumbled that it was all my fault, but I just waved it off, feeling out of place. Although I'm not usually a shy person, I felt truly embarrassed about what we had done. Well, what's done is done. What's the point of arguing now? After all, tonight is our engagement party. Why not spend some time together? I told you myself, this isn't our last time seeing each other. The driver took us to my luxury apartments. I got out of the car, helped Gu Qinghan out, and practically pushed him into the elevator. "It's nothing, don't worry," I said, trying to make the situation lighter. Gu Qinghan's face was still flushed with embarrassment. I removed his hand from my shoulder. "Why are you so red, or is your face just that sensitive? I, on the other hand, am fine." We got out of the elevator, walked to the apartment door, and Gu Qinghan opened it first. At that moment, his phone rang. "Mom," he muttered, and his head immediately started to hurt. A bad feeling came over him. Gu's mother smiled and cooed into the phone. "Qinghan, darling, I forgot to tell you. I hired workers to tidy up your apartment." "You're engaged now," she continued. "You're sleeping in the same room. It's time to get used to each other, you understand." We entered the apartment, and I immediately guessed what was going on. "No separate bedrooms," she insisted. "If you want, you can get married tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll send you both to study in Russia, and you'll get married there at 14. Gu Qinghan sighed heavily. "Okay, Mom, I understand." She smiled mysteriously. "I sent you gifts there on the bed. I won't disturb you anymore. Good night," and hung up. He explained to me that my mother had sent some kind of surprise, and we headed to the bedroom together. I saw a huge box near the bed. Apparently, she decided to arrange a wedding surprise for us without our knowledge, in order to somehow compensate for her persistence. I opened the box with anticipation, expecting to see something interesting, and Gu Qinghan watched me. Looking inside, he froze in complete amazement. It was a very specific gift. We stood opposite each other, not knowing what to say. The box contained hundreds of packages of condoms of the same well-known brand. I was shocked. Seriously, that much? When are we ever going to use it all? Gu Qinghan looked at me suspiciously. "And who do you think is going to use this on you?" I laughed, pushed him onto the bed, and playfully asked, "What are you embarrassed about? We're practically married, come on." His face flushed with rage and embarrassment. He began to push away with his arms and legs covering his chest. "Jiang Yichen, you're unbearable." "It's just a set," I retorted, still teasing. "Why are you so upset over such a small thing?" Gu Qinghan turned away. "Who said I was surprised? I just don't want to have anything to do with you." "You're so heartless. You have a ton of friends and you still blame me for some illness. It's offensive to hear that," I replied. Seeing him with such a disgusted expression was even funny. I added with a smile, "I'm still a guy from the Chu family, believe me." He chuckled. "Seriously, you have so many fans and you're only loyal to Chu. Who would believe that?" I regretted my words a little. If rumors spread, it could damage my manhood. "Qinghan, forget what I said, just ignore it," I begged. He understood why I hesitated and smiled like a sly cat. "Do you want me to keep this secret?" I nodded in agreement. Gu Qinghan raised his chin proudly. "Okay, then you'll have to listen to me in everything." I pretended I hadn't heard anything. "What did you say, darling?" I asked, gently placing my hand on his back. He chuckled. "Since you're so accommodating, let's agree on this. Now this bedroom is mine and you sleep on the sofa." My smile faded. I looked at him, not believing my ears, on the couch. Gu Qinghan, afraid that I would change my mind, poked me with his finger. "Repeat what I said, and do as I'm told. Don't be lazy." I've outsmarted myself, I thought, but for my own peace of mind, I had to agree, even though everything inside me protested. "Okay, I'm a man, I'll give in," I replied, already thinking of a plan to regain my rightful place in the bedroom. Gu Qinghan threw me a pillow and waved his hand, good night. I had no choice but to go into the living room. It was 10 o'clock in the evening and I was about to buy a Coke when I suddenly heard footsteps. Gu Qinghan walked out of the room, his expression still pouting. "What are you doing here?" I asked, turning around. "I'm thirsty," he replied, walking into the kitchen and taking a can of drink out of the refrigerator. "Bring me a can of Coke too," I shouted to him. He ignored my order, but being in a good mood, he still brought me a drink. Then he sat down on the carpet, swinging his legs. "I want to watch TV," he said, looking for the remote, and then extended his hand toward me. I rummaged around the sofa and sure enough, found the remote control in his hands. I looked at him from the side and noticed how he had grown. From a round-faced kitten, he had turned into an elegant guy with a sharp chin. "That girl you had lunch with today, that beauty you were talking about, you have terrible taste if you call her beautiful," he suddenly said. I looked at his face and legs with interest, noticing a strange glint in his eyes. "Are you jealous?" I asked with a grin. "Why would I be jealous? That girl isn't even a match for me," Gu Qinghan snapped. He was clearly angry. His pride was hurt by the fact that I'd even mentioned another woman. I just smiled mysteriously, finishing my cola. "You've got it all wrong. That beauty I was talking about isn't her at all." Meanwhile, my thoughts returned to Sumushu. I wondered if I should visit her tomorrow. Gu Qinghan, noticing my reverie, narrowed his eyes. He clearly suspected I was daydreaming about that very beauty, and his expression darkened noticeably. "So who is she?" he asked defiantly. "I don't believe there's anyone prettier than me in this school." I laughed. "Don't even ask, I won't tell anyone, but believe me, school rumors aren't everything." Gu Qinghan frowned, clearly offended by my mirth. "What are you laughing at? Jiang Yichen, don't forget, you're my husband now. Are you thinking of cheating on me?" His words puzzled me. "Darling, you have more than enough admirers yourself," I replied. "And if I act like a scoundrel, will you be very upset?" "Really? Then let's check," Gu Qinghan blurted out, raising his hand in challenge. Even though it looked childish, I still sat closer, remembering how we often fooled around as children. At moments like these, I felt like we were back in our youth, when we were each other's only friends. Gu Qinghan suddenly added, "By the way, do you remember how our parents were already talking about our wedding when we were 3 or 4 years old?" Only now did he notice that I had been holding him close this whole time, my arms around his waist. We looked like a real couple in love. He quickly pressed his hands against my chest and tried to pull away. "Let me go, I want to sleep." I looked at him tenderly. "Remember the past, Qinghan? We slept together back then too." "I remember, so what?" he muttered, clearly embarrassed by my memories. "I'm used to the sofa, but it's uncomfortable to sleep on," I sighed. "Are you really going to let me suffer all night? Otherwise, I won't get up for class tomorrow." Gu Qinghan hugged me back, trying to play on my feelings, but he still glanced sideways at the sofa. He knew sleeping there would be a real pleasure. "Wife, please," I whispered, continuing to gently swing him by the waist. Gu Qinghan finally relented. "Okay, just for today." "You're so kind, I knew I could persuade you," I rejoiced. He looked at me sternly. "Before you get too excited, remember, the bedroom is my territory. Inside, you obey me unquestioningly. Understood?" I nodded obediently, picked up the pillow, and together we went to the bedroom. Gu Qinghan grumbled, "Who even wants to sleep with you? If the bed weren't so big, I would never let you in." "Sleep tight," he added, "and don't try to sneak up on me at night or you'll fly out the door." I just chuckled silently. He entered the room and closed the door tightly. The sun shone brightly through the window in the morning. I woke up in a great mood, hugging something warm and soft. Someone started pushing me. "Jiang Yichen, wake up." The voice was clearly irritated. I muttered angrily, "Don't disturb me, I want to sleep." But he continued shaking me, demanding that I get up. Finally, I opened my eyes and realized that I was late for class. Thoughts of Sumushu immediately drove away the remnants of sleep. I stretched and looked at the one who had woken me. Gu Qinghan looked at me reproachfully. "You're such a jerk. You've been bothering me all night, even though I told you not to bother me." I grabbed his finger. "Don't lie, you crawled onto my side of the bed yourself." I looked at the nightstand. Indeed, during the night we both ended up on his half and I was hugging him tightly, like an octopus. Gu Qinghan blushed when he realized that he wouldn't be able to catch me red-handed. He quickly found something to answer. "Whose side of the bed is it?" he declared proudly. "This entire bedroom is mine. I'm just letting you stay here temporarily." I couldn't help but laugh at his warlike appearance. "If you don't like it, get lost on the couch," he added. "Do you dare object?" I raised my hands. "Okay, you win. Arguing with you is not worth it." We quickly washed up and got ready for school. On the way, I was bored and looked out the car window without interest. Suddenly, a familiar figure flashed into view, Sumyu. My eyes widened in surprise and I immediately shouted, "Stop the car, faster." "What happened?" Gu Qinghan was surprised, but ordered the driver to slow down. "I don't want you to be seen getting out of my car," I said, holding out my hand. "Give me some money." Gu Qinghan pulled out a wallet, threw it into my palm, and added contemptuously, "Couldn't you take it yourself?" I just smiled at him and got out of the car. Gu Qinghan looked at me doubtfully. He must have guessed I was trying to slip away to do my own thing, and I realized it would be difficult to escape unnoticed. I quickly kissed him on the cheek, smiled, and said, "Thank you, dear," and then hurried out of the car. Gu Qinghan froze, stunned by my behavior, and simply watched me go. It seemed I was behaving inappropriately toward him. At the pastry shop, I caught up with Sumyu, walked up behind her and patted her on the shoulder. "Hello," she turned around, clearly not expecting to see me. We were both surprised by the meeting. I was expecting to see someone else here. It must have been fate, seeing her buying a cake again. I got worried. Was it really for that guy again? If so, he was definitely studying at Shangd. Sumyu asked the waiter to wrap the strawberry cake. I couldn't resist and ordered the same dessert, and also a cup of milk tea. When we stepped outside, I saw a familiar luxury car nearby. It looked like it belonged to Gu Qinghan. He sat inside and stared at me, and Sumyu with a heavy, gloomy gaze. I felt awkward with his presence and suggested to Sumyu, "I haven't had breakfast yet, would you like to join me?" We stopped at the cafe on her recommendation. I ordered breakfast to somehow justify the delay. As I left the cafe, I glanced around furtively. Seeing that Gu Qinghan's car was gone, I finally let out a sigh of relief. "What's wrong with you?" Sumyu noticed my strange behavior. "It's fine," I smiled. "By the way, I dropped by your class yesterday, but you weren't there. I heard some girl confessed her love to you." "I refused," she replied coldly. "But why were you looking for me?" "Nothing special. I just wanted to help you get used to the school. I'm new here too, after all. Although, to be honest, I already have a personal guide in Chumenjiao." We reached the gates together just as classes were about to start. Streams of students streamed in, and I felt their gazes on me. Naturally, everyone was looking at Sumyu, but she seemed to be used to being the center of attention. At the gate, she suddenly froze, looking at the door in surprise. It was new, and the old one through which she had passed yesterday was gone without a trace. The guards nearby were talking to each other. "Be careful, or they'll fire you like that guy Lee." Sumyu looked at me with a silent question. Could this really be my doing? "I have nothing to do with it," I hastened to justify myself. "I have no reason to deprive a man of his job." "No reason?" she persisted. "He was fired right after the director called and didn't let you in yesterday." Sumyu looked at me accusingly. "Do you think the director would have personally dealt with the security guard if it weren't for your influence?" "You have money and status," she continued. "You can't even imagine what it means for an ordinary person to lose their job because of your whim. He has a small child, expenses for milk, diapers. Do you even understand what kind of trouble you brought to this family?" "Sorry, but I don't make friends with liars," she snapped, and without even listening to the end of my objections, she turned around and left. I wandered into class, remembering what Chumenjiao had said. Sumyu's family was simple and incomplete. Her mother was often humiliated at work by the rich, so Sumyu had an innate hatred for the golden youth. Now it became clear to me why she had flared up so much. Gu Qinghan had probably gotten involved and resolved the issue with the guard to curry favor with me. After all, his father is a big shot at Shangd. For him, firing an employee is like dusting off a tree. After class, I rushed to the high school to find Sumyu and explain everything. I asked one of the students to call her, tell her that Jiang Yichin is looking for her. The guy looked at me in surprise. "Oh, is that you? You're very persistent, coming to confess so early." It turned out to be the same student I'd spoken to yesterday. He went into class and announced that a handsome guy named Jiang Yichin was looking for her. I waited at the door, not sure if she would come out, as she was very hostile. When she left, I said, "I need to explain myself. Can you spare a couple of minutes?" She nodded briefly. We walked to the vacant lot behind the school. I gathered my courage and spoke as seriously as possible. I explained the door situation. Believe it or not, I had nothing to do with it. "I'll sort this out. Is it fair to accuse me of sins I didn't even know about?" I turned around, ready to leave. She looked at me and doubt flashed in her eyes. I knew I had gotten through to her. She considered me a typical rich kid who was used to using his power to suppress others. As I took a step away, she suddenly grabbed my wrist. "I'm sorry, I was wrong." "I need to think," I replied dryly, freeing my hand. Without wasting any time, I headed straight to the principal's office, ignoring the lesson that had begun. The director, who had dozed off at his desk, started at the noise, but upon seeing me, he immediately broke into an obsequious smile. I walked up to his desk. "Why did you fire that security guard? Was it because of me?" Suddenly the door swung open and Gu Qinghan walked in with an icy expression. "It was my order, not his. And how did you end up here anyway?" I was stunned by his appearance. Gu Qinghan brazenly interrupted me, addressing the director. Unable to contain myself, I bluntly declared, "Director, I'm leaving here." "I didn't ask you to give him his job back. Did you hear what I said?" I repeated, looking the director straight in the eye. When Gu Qinghan suddenly burst into the office, the director sitting at the desk jumped up in fright, wiping the cold sweat from his forehead. He nodded, not daring to argue. Yes, Qinghan, I understand everything. I will do exactly as you tell me." I frowned as I turned to Gu Qinghan. "This position is a matter of life and death for a person. Why did you even decide to fire him?" Gu Qinghan walked closer to me and replied coldly, "I'm not here to discuss personnel matters. You started all this because of Su Muzu, right?" I didn't understand why his suspicion bothered me so much. "You know Su Muzu, isn't it really that hard to just understand the situation?" I said. Gu Qinghan grew even more angry. The very mention of that name seemed to infuriate him. "Su Muzu has a boyfriend, don't you know? The whole school is talking about it, and yet you're hitting on him. Yichen, how can you act like this?" Now I realized that he had mistaken the beauty I mentioned earlier for Su Muzu. Gu Qinghan was furious at this guess. "It all started when I jumped out of the car this morning after seeing her. After that, without realizing it, I distanced myself from him." I was stunned to see Gu Qinghan's eyes suddenly filled with tears. "Stinky Jiang Yichen, I never want to see you again," he shouted, burst into tears, and ran out of the office. I clenched my fists, feeling terrible. I simply admired Su Muzu, but I had no intention of stealing him away from the guy or chasing him. I rushed after him to stop him, but I didn't have time. He disappeared from sight in a matter of seconds. The anger inside me was still boiling, and I rushed after him down the stairs, hoping to catch up and say everything I thought. However, I didn't notice that Gu Qinghan didn't run out into the street but hid in a dark corner of the stairwell. In the confusion, I simply didn't see his silhouette in the darkness. Gu Qinghan squatted, burying his face in his knees. "Jiang Yichen, you idiot," he sobbed in the darkness, unable to stop. He spent the rest of the day replaying our fights from yesterday and today in his head, feeling like his life was falling apart. He stood at the school gates for over 10 minutes, hoping I would show up, but the sky darkened and I still didn't show. His face grew darker and darker. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore and shouted into the void, "Jiang Yichen, come out, stop hiding, look how long I'll wait for you." But minutes passed and I didn't appear. Gu Qinghan assumed I'd simply left, and the thought filled him with bitter anger. He decided to leave home, but where to? If he returned to his parents, I would easily find him, and he didn't want that. I had to choose a place where he'd know I was looking for him, but couldn't just show up. In the end, he decided to stay at the most luxurious hotel in town. Half an hour later, he was already standing at the entrance to a luxury hotel. It was a 6-star hotel. The receptionist greeted him with a dazzling smile. "Welcome, would you like to stay with us?" Gu Qinghan, who was accustomed to wealth, only nodded. "Miss, which room would you like to stay in?" the girl asked. "I'll have the best presidential suite," Gu Qinghan replied. The receptionist froze for a moment in surprise. She asked again, realizing that the price for the room was astronomical, but Gu Qinghan didn't care. The paperwork took a couple of minutes, and soon he was already riding the elevator to the top floor. There were only 3 presidential suites there, the most elite apartments in the city. Having paid for the room, he was left alone. The presidential suite was striking in its magnificence. "The living room is simply huge," Gu Qinghan exclaimed and collapsed exhausted onto the sofa. It was so cozy here that, lying on the sofa, he gradually began to fall asleep. Meanwhile, night had fallen. I returned to our apartment at 11 o'clock. I was in a bad mood and wanted a drink. Despite my anger, I was still worried about that stupid girl. Entering the dark apartment, I felt something was wrong. I quickly turned on the light and called out to him, but there was silence. "Gu Qinghan," I shouted, but no one answered. I started rushing from room to room, peering into every corner. He was nowhere to be found. 11 o'clock and he still hadn't returned. I punched the wall in rage. Gu Qinghan, you idiot, how could you just disappear like that? I was close to madness. If he were standing in front of me now, I'd give him a good thrashing. But first I had to find him. I was afraid something might have happened to him. My face turned pale with the realization that I had been too harsh. I dialed his number with trembling hands, but the phone was switched off. Bad thoughts crept into my head. Did he really decide to break off all ties with me? I tried to dial it again, but the device was out of range. My chest tightened with pain and anger. I swore to myself that when I found him, I would definitely give him a dressing down. Suddenly my phone rang. Gu Qinghan's cold voice came through the receiver. What do you want? Where are you? I asked. He paused for a moment, then replied, if I don't tell you, you won't find it. And don't even think about calling me until you learn to apologize, and hung up. I looked at the phone and couldn't help but smile. Well, let's play hide and seek. I'll still find you. I sat down at the computer, opened the necessary programs, and, using a couple of tricks, tracked the signal of his phone. Gu Qinghan picked up the phone again. I paused deliberately, watching as the monitor screen displayed his location data. You don't give me any clues, I said, but how do I know where you are? He laughed. I'm in a very luxurious and comfortable place right now. I absolutely love it here. Guess where it is? Okay, I'll find you. Wait, I answered confidently, looking at the result on the monitor. I already knew the exact address. Without waiting for his reaction, I simply hung up. Gu Qinghan was furious. He looked at his phone, wondering if he had said something wrong. He was so angry that he threw the phone aside and started eating fruit, calming himself with the thought that I would never figure him out. 20 minutes passed. Gu Qinghan lay on the sofa, enjoying the magnificent night view from the panoramic window. Suddenly the doorbell rang. He was confused. After all, he hadn't ordered anything. Without thinking, he walked up to the door and opened it. When he saw me, he froze in shock. Jiang Yichen, how did you know I was here? He simply couldn't believe his eyes. Let's go home. I grabbed his wrist and tried to pull him along with me. Gu Qinghan resisted, trying to pull his hand away, but the forces were unequal. He stepped on my foot with all his might, and the sudden pain made me involuntarily loosen my grip. He took advantage of the moment, pushed me into the corridor, and slammed the door right in front of my nose. I banged on the door. Gu Qinghan, open up, it's late, let's go home. An angry silence followed. He was determined not to return. I frowned, wondering how to get inside, and then a man in a formal suit appeared in the corridor, the local administrator. I had to use old connections. This is my wife's number, give me a duplicate card. Gu Qinghan remained silent outside the door, hoping that I had left, when he suddenly heard the distinctive beeping sound of the electronic lock. The door swung open and I stepped inside. Catching him off guard, he fell onto the carpet in surprise. I looked down at him. It's not funny. Why are you lying on the floor? Despite my provocative tone, I still walked over and helped him up. Gu Qinghan blurted out indignantly, where did you get the card? This hotel is completely unreliable. How can you give out the key to strangers? I chuckled because I told the manager you're my wife. He pulled his hand away, walked over to the sofa, hugged the pillow, and grumbled angrily. Who is your wife? Honestly, I'm very angry, he added. If you don't apologize, I'll never forgive you. I walked up to him, sat down next to him, and hugged him tightly. What are you doing? He cried. I smiled and pinned him back to the couch so he couldn't escape. Have you ever heard of lovers quarrel, but it's only to make up? I leaned towards him, reducing the distance to a minimum. Gu Qinghan tensed up and didn't dare move. Why are you looming over me like that? Move away and let me get up. Although we hugged a lot as children, now that we were grown up, everything felt completely different. No, I laughed quietly. I feel comfortable like this. You're comfortable, but I'm not. Get up immediately. Can't you behave normally? He demanded indignantly. Okay, whatever you say. I let him go, having achieved my goal. He felt that he had lost this argument again and was extremely unhappy about it. He sat on the corner of the sofa, clutching a pillow to his chest like a shield. I sat on the edge of the sofa right in front of him, looking into his eyes. How can I make it up to you? Will you forgive me? We often agreed like this in childhood, and I knew what needed to be done. Gu Qinghan looked at me with indignation, recalling all the grievances of that day. You demand too much, he whispered. I saw how upset he was. There were tears in his eyes, and I realized that I was the only one to blame. I explained softly, I'm sorry, Su Muzu is just a friend to me. I know he has a boyfriend and I never tried to ruin their relationship. Gu Qinghan listened attentively. He noticeably softened. How did you even know I was here? He asked more calmly. I smiled and flicked him on the nose. I have my methods. You can't hide anything from me. Gu Gu Qinghen stared at me with his mouth open. It seemed like he was about to believe it. Oh, a fly flew in, I suddenly exclaimed. Gu Qinghen was frightened and instinctively covered his mouth with his hand. Fear flashed in his eyes, but was immediately replaced by annoyance. He realized that I was playing a joke on him. He grabbed a pillow and threw it at me. You're unbearable, you're lying again. Forgot we're engaged, you're my fiancé now, I retorted. And if you're really that jealous of Su Muzu, maybe I should change my image. I grabbed the pillow and decided to get even. And what about you? You have a ton of admirers. No matter where you spit, they're all running after you. And who's the dog in the manger after that? Gu Qinghen frowned, not knowing what to answer. There are lots of them. They're everywhere in other schools, on the streets, I continued, teasing him. You're just stupid if you think I don't see it, but don't even think of calling me a fool. Gu Qinghen didn't continue the pillow war, but simply hit me with his hand in annoyance. I laughed, grabbed his hands, pulled him towards me and ruffled his hair. Little fool, how funny you are. You bastard, and you still dare say you treat me well. He tried to break free, but I held him tight. I smiled contentedly, enjoying the moment. It was like a child's game of tag where I was deliberately giving him a head start. Gu Qinghen tried to struggle for a while, but the tightness of the sofa was not on his side, and he soon became exhausted. We fiddled around, not noticing that our glances had become too long and meaningful. Finally, Gu Qinghen felt awkward and turned around to sit down next to him. I straightened up and asked, do you remember what you liked most as a child? What exactly? He turned his head towards me, carefully studying my face. What's the point of guessing? Just tell me yourself, Gu Qinghen laughed. I decided to play with him and, smiling mysteriously, took out my phone, typed a message and sent it, hiding the gadget so that he wouldn't see. When we were little, I began. You really liked it, I guess you still do, I said mysteriously, looking into his eyes, shining like black grapes. Ice cream. I pinched his cheek, imagining him eating it. Don't worry, one time won't make you fat. Gu Qinghen touched his lips with his fingers. I like a lot of things, how did you guess? If I don't guess, tell me yourself, come on. I gently tugged at the hem of his clothes. At that moment my phone beeped, notifying me of a message. He leaned forward curiously. Come on, what kind of gift is this? I laughed. Since you didn't accept my apology earlier, this is a gift as a sign of reconciliation. I hope you like it. Gu Qinghen was in high spirits, though he tried to maintain his dignity. He remembered that since childhood I had always been able to choose exactly what he liked. Come here, I lifted him from the sofa and led him to the huge panoramic window. We stood in front of the transparent glass, admiring the city at night. The view from here was simply stunning. The next second, the sky blossomed with fireworks. Bright sparks flashed against the black background like blossoming flowers. Gu Qinghen gasped in delight and involuntarily grabbed my sleeve. I couldn't help but smile with satisfaction as I looked at his face. The smoke from the fireworks slowly melted into the night sky, leaving behind a sense of wonder. When it was all over, he turned to me. Was this your surprise? I nodded, smiling charmingly. Did you like it? Gu Qinghen beamed. If you were sincere, then I forgive you. I walked him to the sofa and said, rest, I'm going to take a shower. I headed to the bathroom, taking my clothes with me. Gu Qinghen saw me taking off my shirt and his face instantly turned red. Hey, what are you doing? I won't go back to my room, I'll stay here overnight, I answered calmly. How is it here and why? He was confused. But I didn't care. I went into the bathroom and turned on the water. Gu Qinghen remained standing in the living room, feeling a little confused. Suddenly an idea came to him. He ran to the bathroom door and knocked. I'll sleep on the couch. Don't you want to sleep with me? Well, whatever, I replied, but while I was taking a shower, he suddenly jumped up, ran into the bedroom and locked himself in. When I left the bathroom, I calmly walked into the bedroom where I sat quietly on the bed, scrolling through my phone. He flinched in surprise. How did you get in here? I locked the door. I just shrugged. It's late, go to bed. Gu Qinghen walked up to the bed, put his hands on his hips and glared at me. Come on, answer. I chuckled. I have a room card, remember? Come on, get under the covers. We've already slept together. What are you embarrassed about? Who's shy? Gu Qinghen walked over to the bed, pulled the blanket over himself and lay down next to me, trying not to make eye contact. I left my phone on to give the room a dim light, but soon turned it off and darkness enveloped us. 12 minutes passed, but Gu Qinghen was still awake. I could feel him tossing and turning and looking in my direction. In the moonlight coming through the window, he could see that my eyes were closed and my breathing was even. He quietly muttered my name, Jiang Yichen Chen. He didn't want to wake me up, but rather was checking to see if I was really asleep. As soon as he said my name, I immediately opened my eyes. What happened? Are you sleeping? I can't, he whispered, lowering his voice to a minimum. If I were asleep, would I be talking to you? I replied, turning to face him. We lay face to face, very close. King-hin, you haven't called me such a tender name in a long time, I said, peering at his features in the moonlight. In the darkness, I could clearly see his long eyelashes and tangled hair. What did you call me? I asked quietly. I was sweating slightly from excitement. He'd called me that a lot as a child, but now he only called me by my first name, as if he were angry. I wanted to recapture that childhood warmth. Gu Qinghan thought for a moment. Yes, he used to call me Chen a lot, or even Brother Chen when we were little. Finally, he replied, okay, I'll call you that, but in return you have to count my sheep. Sheep? I was surprised to see a childish glint in his eyes. He laughed sheepishly. Yes, I can't sleep, and a sleep-deprived girl is bad for her skin. Go ahead, count it, I'm too lazy. I chuckled. Since she's too lazy, I'll count them. But counting sheep isn't fashionable these days, I said. What's fashionable? He asked curiously. I suggested a more original method, counting the sounds of footsteps, and Gu Qinghan readily agreed. Haha, footsteps? Funny. Okay, go ahead, I'm listening, he said, settling in, waiting for the show to begin. I started counting, 1, 2, 3. After a couple of minutes, he interrupted me. No, this isn't right. These steps just make me hungry. Let's do something else. I thought about it and suggested counting cold sounds or something like that. Gu Qinghan smiled with satisfaction. Just like that, perfect. And in the silence of the room, I continued my monotonous counting. 4 cold, 5 cold. The next morning, opening his eyes, he was surprised to find that we were sleeping in each other's arms again. How did this happen? How did he end up in my arms? What was even stranger was that he wasn't just lying next to me, but was clinging tightly to me. Gu Qinghan quickly pulled away, sat up on the bed, and to hide his embarrassment, lightly patted my shoulder. I opened my eyes, feeling exhausted. Sleeping in that position all night had been torture. What did you say? He asked, not hearing my muttering. It's nothing, I stretched lazily, loosening my stiff back. Gu Qinghan said with embarrassment, I saw red spots in your eyes. Did you sleep poorly? I wanted to make a sarcastic remark that it was he who had been bothering me all night, but I remained silent. What did I give you? What did I do? He asked curiously. I hesitated, not knowing how to explain that I had to catch him and hug him all night so that he wouldn't fall out of bed. Zhang Yichen, you're so naughty. Tell me, what were you muttering? Curiosity clearly didn't give him any peace. He was ready to torture me until he found out the truth. I stuck my finger out from under the blanket. What did you promise me yesterday? He remembered. All right, Brother Chen, speak up already. I slept so soundly after he stopped tossing and turning that I couldn't remember the details myself, which started to irritate me. I barely slept because of you, so let's have breakfast and then I'll sleep some more, I grumbled. Gu Qinghan nodded. Okay, I won't bother you, I'll order the food myself. I immediately fell asleep and he tiptoed out of the room. He washed himself and sat down on the sofa, waiting for breakfast to be delivered. To be honest, I only slept for about 10 minutes. Thinking back to last night, I couldn't help but laugh. Gu Qinghan is such a sleepyhead and fidget. From the very first night we started sleeping together, he was constantly kicking in his sleep, almost throwing me out of bed. I had to hold him all night, so by morning we always ended up in a tight embrace. At first I thought he was doing it on purpose, but now I understand that it's his nature. I finally woke up and went to the bathroom to tidy myself up. Gu Qinghan saw me and his face immediately brightened. It seemed like he had been waiting for me since early morning. I ordered breakfast delivered to my room and we ate in peace. Afterward, we got ready and left the hotel, unaware that we might be spotted. However, as soon as we were outside, I noticed a suspicious camera lens in the corner of the building, aimed right at us. Someone was clearly filming.